Andrew Yang, great to have you here. We love to have fun here, so I'm just going to read the title of the book, and I hope you brought it with you. Hey, Yang, where's my $1,000?
Yes, I'm carrying it right now.
Good.
I have a stack of bills.
My assistant will be waiting outside to take it from you.
Yes, I do get asked this on the streets of New York and other places. The other question I have gotten is, hey, am I racist, or are you Andrew Yang, which is the alternate title of the book.
What is the origin of the $1,000?
Well, the $1,000 was my version of universal basic income that I campaigned on in 2020. I said that AI was going to come and displace millions of Americans, and we should start distributing the gains quickly. Crazy, I know. I mean, now people come to me every day and say, wow, you were ahead of the curve.
Right. And universal basic income is something you and I've talked about before. You can watch the OG version of the Takeout to see our session on that. It's an idea rooted in the Nixon administration in the 60s. Daniel Patrick Moynihan, when he worked for the Nixon administration, wrote an entire book about it.
Yeah, we could alleviate poverty at scale in this country. We've already done it or come close to doing it. We cut child poverty in half in 2021 as one example. And GDP now is around $84,000 a head. It's going to go past $100,000 per person with AI, which is going to have a lot of negative effects, which we'll probably talk about. But it's certainly going to increase top-line growth. So at some point, you have to look up and say, wow, we could actually do a lot more for people and families.
And explain the basic construct of a universal basic income.
So again, not Andrew Yang's idea. Martin Luther King, Thomas Paine, a lot of other people were for versions of it. But you just get a certain amount of money every month, no questions asked, to meet your basic
cash.
needs. Yeah, I mean, there are different ways to structure it, but universal basic income generally means cash in your hands.
And you don't go through the process in the modern welfare state of qualification forms, et cetera, et cetera.
It's the U in universal, Major. Everyone gets it. No questions, no stigma. You're a citizen.
And no imaginary line where you are or aren't qualified for assistance.
Yeah, you're a citizen and stakeholder of the richest, most advanced society in the history of the world, which is the United States. And $1,000 a month is eminently doable.
And there have been areas where this has been tested in our country.
Yeah, there are various communities that have had versions of it, and what you saw was an increase in conscientiousness and agreeableness among children, which I dare say would be very good as a parent. People put the money toward educational materials and fuel and food and transportation, getting to and from their job. So a lot of the scary stories about what people do with money aren't borne out by studies or reality.
They do practical things with the money.
They do what most of the people watching this
and it makes their lives better and a little bit happier.
Might do. What's funny, Major, is you talk to someone, be like, look, I would use the money for very wholesome things, but like that guy over there is gonna scrub with it. I mean, right. But the studies show that most people would do what you and I would do.
So the book talks a little bit about your presidential campaign. Was that something you are glad you did, or you regret that you did?
Oh gosh, I'm so grateful. Now I look. No, I look back so positively on meeting thousands of Americans around the country, making a case. I ran in order to accelerate the adoption of something that could alleviate poverty at scale, and grateful to everyone who got behind me and the campaign. It's like a once-in-a-lifetime experience, or maybe not once in a lifetime, because who knows?
Who knows?
I'll do it again.
Stay tuned. You write in the book that when you would give your normal speech, it started off when you were beginning this process dry and it didn't really land. And then the more vulnerable you became, the more relatable you became, the more the crowd showed. What's that process like as a human being?
I recommend that everyone run for president because...
I do not recommend that everyone run for president, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we're going to agree to disagree on that.
For me, certainly it's a journey where I had facts and figures and a PowerPoint deck. And then people were like, yeah, interesting. Because it turns out people are more interested in supporting a person than they are a deck or an idea. And that was a journey for me. I make the mistake over and over again where I think the next thing is going to be like the last thing. And it turns out that running for office, particularly president, turns into a very deeply personal experience pretty quickly.
Even though one of the things that your supporters gravitated to was a slogan or a hat or a shirt that said math. So they had an expectation that they would get more slide deck with Andrew Yang than, say, somebody else.
Yeah, they'd be disappointed if there weren't some numbers. But math was an acronym that stood for Make Americans Think Harder,
Right.
which did not work, obviously.
Didn't quite catch on.
We haven't. Well, I mean, yeah, like we didn't think hard enough, in my opinion. And my campaign was born of the harsh reality that AI was coming down the pike and was going to take a lot of jobs.
Let's drill into that. Where are we now? What do you foresee in the next 1 or 2 years?
It's shocking, Major, because it's changing almost daily. But I think millions of Americans are going to lose their jobs in the next 12 to 18 months.
Millions of Americans who have jobs now will not have them in 18 to 24 months.
Yes, that's right.
What kind of jobs?
Call center jobs, programmer, designer, marketing, analyst, anything with the word analyst or research in it, consultant, lawyers, accountants. Most white-collar jobs are going to shrink because you now have AI that can do knowledge work much, much faster and more powerfully. I talked to the CEO of a publicly traded tech company, and he said to me privately, we're going to fire 15% of our workers, and then we're going to fire 20% probably 2 years later, and then we're going to fire another 20% 2 years after that. So there are going to be decisions like that made at just about every major publicly traded company.
Because the competitive imperative for publicly traded companies only runs in one direction.
Yeah, and if a company, by the way, did not do this, their stock price would plummet over time because everyone's going to have this competitive dynamic. Can I do more with less? Can I do more with fewer people? And so when you cut workers, your stock goes up. And CEOs are under a lot of pressure themselves to deliver. And so there's going to be an unfortunate competitive dynamic where the more ruthless you can be on headcount, the more you get rewarded.
So let me ask you this, because this is something that has a circular quality to it, because I see it all over. Oh, Andrew, we've had transformational technologies before. They create other jobs, just different ones. I feel, personally, based on my reading, this is fundamentally different. I dare say you probably agree. Tell me, explain why you feel that way.
Yeah, the technology is just being applied over more industries more quickly than anything we've seen before. I mean, you've never had intelligent machines that are just faster than anything that we can perform or imagine. I'm going to give you two stories very quickly. I was a corporate attorney in my youth, and AI can do document review and that sort of work much, much more quickly than a highly educated human. So the legal profession is going to be under immense pressure. The second thing is I now run a wireless carrier called Noble Mobile that's trying to get people's wireless bills down 50%. The average American spending $83 a month on their wireless. The average European spending $35 a month. That delta adds up to $100 billion in extra spend on wireless connectivity. With Noble, it's around 42. So I have a CTO who's been trying to hire engineers to work on the product. And then he came back to us very recently and said, you know what? AI might be able to do the things that I was going to hire the engineers to do, so we might not need to hire. And that conversation is happening at firms around the country. So you have junior engineers who are graduating from top schools with computer science degrees who cannot find a job. And that is the reality right now.
I've had Jodi Kantor, who I think you probably know of, either by reputation or personally on this program, talking about a book that she is writing and has been reporting on as kind of a side to all her other work for the New York Times about college graduates trying to find jobs, relying on AI chatbots to combat or counteract what they know is the sifting by AI chatbots on the other end of their resumes or job applications.
Yeah, it's AI talking to AI in terms of trying to get your resume in front of a person who might not be a person. By the way, what this means for a job seeker is that they should try to circumvent this whole process through relationships. And it's kind of old school. You would remember this.
Yes.
Where you'd have
pick up
someone,
a telephone.
Yeah, you'd have someone call someone and say, hey, I need you to
show up at a doorstep.
And that, like, so the old-fashioned stuff, what's old is new again kind of thing, where hiring executives are going to get more messages from people in their network saying, hey, can you sit with my son or daughter for an informational session? That is going to be one of the only paths to getting an offer. So the human race is relentlessly adaptable. It's one of the things that makes us interesting at the margins. But as I hear and read about this, it feels like the gap in terms of years that it's going to be required for people to find that next thing
is going to be one of the most difficult aspects of this near-term future.
Yeah, the adjustment period is going to be incredibly painful, especially because most Americans are on rocky financial ground right now. They don't have tons of months of savings. And so if they lose their job at the call center, for example, where are they going to get hired? What does that process look like? The reality is they're going to go home, their savings are going to evaporate, and desperation is going to kick in pretty quickly. That's going to play out for millions of American households.
You write in the book about a world where there are lots of middle-aged baristas.
Yeah, everyone's going to be taking whatever opportunity they can find, and it's not going to correspond to your education or credentials, which, by the way, is a reality that our recent college graduates are living right now, where they're going out there. I know, for example, of a college graduate has a master's in education who is working behind a deli counter. I mean, like there are things like that happening in communities around the country right now. It's just going to get worse.
And you write in the book about the potential concussive effect on universities and colleges writ large.
If you are a college administrator, you're looking at this and saying like, oh, like what the heck do I do? Because you're delivering the same product-ish. I mean, there's some adjustments in there. And college is expensive. So families are taking out loans and expecting that their son or daughter is going to get a moderately paying job that's going to be a track to a career. And when that gets blasted to smithereens, which is happening right now, there's going to be a lot of anger, despair, frustration, because the social contract that we have had, and I'm the son of immigrants, so I've lived a version of this, which is get good grades, study hard, get into a good school, get a good job, live a decent life. I mean, when that doesn't apply for college graduates, it's a recipe for disaster, both on a personal level, but also nationally.
I want to talk to you about something
I know, I'm such like a positive guy.
I know.
I'm like delivering a very, very sobering message. But it's one reason why I think we should be trying to get money to people.
And that is something you think is probably going to, it's not just an idea, but it's going to gain some kind of velocity because of these forces.
Yeah, we're going to see it around us every day. And then, and again, I get this all the time because I ran for president on the idea of getting money into people's hands. Hence, Yang, where's my $1,000? Hence, Noble Mobile, which is my effort to try and get money into consumers' hands right now, because I'm sort of an impatient fellow, and if I can't get the government to do it, I'll try and do it myself. But it's going to become more and more obvious that this is one of the only paths forward.
You are no longer a Democrat. Why?
I dug into the numbers and determined that the two-party system is not set up for success. It's not set up to deliver major solutions to the American people. It's designed for us to become more polarized and divided and angry. And so when I drew that conclusion, then what could one do except say, okay, guys, look, I have run the numbers. I genuinely ran the numbers. I can break some of them down for you. I ran the numbers, and this stuff is not going to work. It's going to get worse, not better. And so as a patriot, I said, I am now an independent. I'm going to kick off a new movement called the Forward Party. And we're now the third biggest political party in the country by resources, which is not saying a whole heck of a lot because the bar is very low. But we're growing all the time. We have 79 elected officials associated with us around the country, and we're going to have many more after November.
You live in New York. Trump did better in New York City and New York State than a lot of people expected. Then Zohran Mamdani came along with less than a 12-month gap. Now, there are not that many Trump-Mamdani voters, but there are some.
Sure.
He started with social media videos talking to Trump voters. That is reminiscent of what many people described and observed, like I did in 2016, this kind of Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump orientation.
Yeah.
What does that tell you about the state of and direction of American politics?
So the direction of American politics is not left or right. It's inside-outside, or it's establishment, non-establishment. So the reason why there are some Trump-Mamdani voters is that they just wanted someone to stick it to the machine and the folks in charge, and it's like, hey, you want to stick it to them? By the way, this resembles some of my supporters too, because everyone knows they would never send the magical Asian guy from the future who wants to give everyone money. It's like, oh, this guy seems like his own person. He's not a machine puppet, and so they're interested. They're interested in Bernie for the same reason, because you can tell he's not a machine puppet. He's like an old-fashioned New England socialist. By the way, I donated to Bernie Sanders in 2016 before I ran myself in 2020. So I was very sympathetic to the problems he was pointing out because the way of life for the average American family has been going the wrong direction.
Does the mayoralty of Zohran Mamdani make you nervous as a New Yorker?
I know Zohran. I also know Andrew Cuomo. I want what's best for the city, and I've actually advised Zohran publicly. Like I wrote a long post being like, "Okay, Zohran, like here's what I would do," and so I hope that he takes good advice. I hope that positive things result. Yeah, I mean, it does seem like he and his administration are at least showing up and working hard, which you can't say for every past administration.
Talk to me about professional wrestling and American politics today.
Oh, well, you and I shared a moment about this backstage, but I thought that Donald Trump activated pro wrestling fans and comedy fans in a way that the Democratic Party did not understand and certainly did not adjust or adapt to. Interestingly enough, you know who sort of gets it and is adapting to it? The Democratic frontrunner Gavin Newsom with his social media posts that are very, very braggadocious and mocking. And I grew up a pro wrestling fan, and I understood the appeal. Donald Trump is a WWE Hall of Famer and a great bad guy and a great insult comic. And that appeal worked on millions of Americans.
Because that sticks it to a lot of institutional fuddy-duddies.
Yeah, it seemed like, oh, this guy's telling it like it is. Like,
Right.
you know, this guy also, again, is like no one's puppet.
Have you been to a Trump rally? Because they look a lot like and sound alike a pro wrestling event. Long stage to walk out, huge thunderous music, bright lights, and this sort of call and response thing that goes on.
I have not been to a Donald Trump rally, but I've been to multiple WWE events and multiple UFC events. And so I think I understand the atmosphere.
Can Democrats win if they don't understand this particular psychology of America?
I think they'll certainly have a hard time winning men, which is going to be. And by the way, they just ran a report on why they're not able to connect with men. I mean, I think this is one of the biggest reasons why there's been a divide. You have a group of generally college graduates trying to figure out how to talk to Joe Sixpack. And you know who's figured that out en masse? The pro wrestling firms and the comedians. And so that.
And those on the Trumpian right manosphere.
Yeah,
on podcasts and elsewhere.
By the way, who largely overlap with comedians. I mean, a lot of them are comedians themselves. The Undertaker.
And you have written about what you have described as a crisis for the American male.
Yeah, the numbers for American men have been going downhill for years and years.
Statistically, lots of ways to measure success and achievement.
Sure. I mean, for me, success and achievement might be something like going to college, getting a college degree, moving out of the house, getting married, starting a family, reporting optimism about their own life. By the way, you know, I'm a family man. People who don't know me, I've got 2 boys at home who are 13 and 10. Major issue in our house, screen time, which is one reason why I started Noble Mobile, because it reduces people's screen time because we pay people to use less data. And I've seen the effects of not feeling like you have a path forward or like your needs are, human. On young men, where they say, okay, like these people seem to think I'm the bad guy somehow, even though I'm like, trying to figure out my place in the world. And then these guys are speaking to me in a way that's activating and maybe, in my opinion, somewhat like retro and reactive. But hey, at least they're talking to me, and then they head in this direction. By the way, there are a lot of young men who voted for Trump this past cycle who regret it now because they were hoping for better in terms of their own prospects.
How do you size up, if you do, these midterm elections?
You know, the simplest reality, Major, is that people get angry and frustrated at whoever's in charge. Right. So I think that the Democrats are set up to do very, very well in the midterms, but I think they're going to take the wrong lessons from that, which is like, hey, people like us again. And it's like, no, people don't necessarily like you anymore. Your approval rating's at 29%. They just really detest the team in charge because their lives aren't going well.
How do you assess what you have seen play out in the last 12 months when it comes to the president's approach to immigration?
I think a lot of reasonable Americans did not like the way the Biden administration handled the border and voted for Donald Trump and his team to change that. And they're aghast and horrified by what's been going on in terms of ICE executing American citizens on the streets of Minneapolis. I think it's a function of the fact that now the pendulum just keeps swinging way beyond where most Americans are, and the parties are playing you lose, I lose over and over again while we're all looking up saying, what the heck is happening?
Mm-hmm. And that is, it seems to me, it feels like this in the last 10 to 12 years, a pretty repetitive dynamic. The pendulum swings. We get it all and we're going to do it all. And you didn't vote for all, you voted for something slightly less than what you had before.
Yeah. You voted to get the current team out. And then you're like, oh, shoot, I don't like this team either. And it's like, let's give it to the other team. By the way, one of the biggest signs of this was the Democratic Party had this dramatic postmortem they were supposed to do on why they lost in 2024.
Yep.
And then they shelved it and we're like, hey, we're winning again, so let's not
Never
look back.
mind.
Yeah, never mind. And we all know that they should have had a primary and Joe Biden should not have run for re-election. And that was a colossal failure on the part of the Democratic Party. But they can't even acknowledge that. They can't even be like, okay, guys, we get it. We totally should have had a primary and not had Joe Biden steamroll us. Our bad. We'll do better next time. But they don't want to say that for fear of, I'm not sure, like acknowledging failure or casting blame on Joe Biden.
You got behind Dean Phillips. That was always a quixotic run, but you thought it was at least worth sending that signal. Why?
Oh my gosh. So Dean Phillips, a third-term congressman who saw that running Joe Biden again was a disaster in the making and actually sacrificed his career to try and activate a primary in the Democratic Party. And Dean Phillips got 19% of the vote in New Hampshire. Would have been much, much higher if all the independents hadn't been voting for Nikki Haley that night because the Republican primary was the same night. So full credit to Dean for making the principled and courageous stand. And his reward was getting maligned and as a narcissist and excommunicated from the party and having his political career ended. So I am proud to have supported Dean Phillips. I've had a number of decisions age quite well, honestly, including saying AI is going to displace millions of Americans and we should be doing more. And supporting Dean Phillips is something I am very proud to have done.
Should we stop all AI development?
We 100% should be pushing every major AI firm to have a documented safety plan, including personnel we can point to and say, who's responsible for turning the machines off if they start running amok? And right now, the AI firms can't even tell you who the people are, what the plan is, and where the
Andrew, there's no kill switch.
I know, that's one reason why I and many other reasonable people are deeply, deeply frustrated and concerned by the fact that we've given these AI companies carte blanche. There's a joke, but it's true. There are more rules and regulations to open a hot dog stand than there are to run a model that could impact millions of lives.
How do you assess the backlash seen in places like Indiana, Texas, Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey to data centers and all the conversation about what is going to be required in terms of energy and real estate and resources, particularly water, to feed future data centers?
What American family is on board with their electric bills going up, or maybe their water bills going up to service a data center in their community that someone could say, hey, this is going to drive jobs? And you're like, how many people are going to be working in a data center? I have a feeling it's going to be a lot of robots, which, by the way, it totally will be a lot of robots. So there's a disconnect between what our officials are saying is the right thing, which is more data centers, more quote unquote growth, and what American families are seeing. Because no one necessarily wants higher bills or a giant data center next to them.
What's the funniest thing you've seen in the last 5 or 6 months?
Funniest, eh? An interesting question.
I want to end on something that's a little bit lighter. And you and I both have an appreciation for comedy. Anyone or anything you've seen that sort of, God, that was refreshing. It was a nice laugh.
Oh, so I opened for a comedian named Joe Coy, which you guys should check out. Joe's very funny. So I just kind of went on stage. I've now made a habit of crashing these comedy shows.
Right.
And then it's like, hey guys, Andrew Yang here. I ran for president. Any of you support me? And then there's like a mild smattering of applause.
Golf applause.
And then I was like, thank you for the rest of you. screw you, screw you all. Thanks to you, we're all still poor. So that was a good time. Then I shifted to singing Joe's praises.
Right. So
And also talking, like my question too, I made some Asian jokes where it said, how does America's Most Wanted work in China? Where millions of people see a video saying dangerous criminal on the loose, I killed this person, and then they're like, oh my gosh, I killed someone? I guess I'm allowed to make these jokes because I'm Asian, right? I mean, it's all
you're allowed to
fun.
make any jokes you want on the set of the Takeout.
Oh, I
Andrew
like
Yang.
that. I like that.
We'll have you back to do that, I guarantee you. So I love that. The answer to the question, the funniest thing you've seen is you. I love that. That's great.
I look in the mirror and I laugh every day. Now, I'm grateful to still be married. My wife laughs at some of my jokes, so
That probably keeps things going.
Yeah, Andrew Yang, still married.
Hey, Yang, where's my $1,000 I intend to collect? Great to see you.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.